The Jacksonville Jaguars have concluded the 2025 NFL Draft. Did they hit the mark? We'll tell you 5 things we learned here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is, in fact, your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Whether you watch or listen, just make sure you tap into that location so you do not miss an episode. Like today's episode, it is brought to you by Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada draft pick of the week later in the show. And shout out to the everydayers for joining us here every single day on Locked On Jaguars. We appreciate you. Here's where we're going to end up. We're going to land this plane talking about the latest news on vet free agents. The Jaguars have made a signing a day after the draft ended. They get Edge 3, a familiar name to defensive coordinator Anthony Campanile. We'll discuss that in just a second. Did they hit the mark? This is where we'll go through and talk about what they were thinking the whole time. Now we know the answers to how they were assessing this team, the new brass, when they first took over. So we'll make sure we get into that. What we learned about the new brass, that's exactly where we're going to start right now. What we've learned is they are extremely intentional people, and they will absolutely give you the same answer. I don't care how many times you ask a question, they're going to give you the same answer. And it's going to end up talking about an ecosystem and being intangibly rich. And people that are already saying, man, we're kind of tired of that. And, you know, why didn't he say different things? Well, I'll tell you why. Because during draft season, he's asked the same questions over and over again. Trust me, because I am one of the people that are asking those questions. So I know how it could get a little bit overwhelming and it could get a little bit tired. So you got to always kind of have a standard answer that you're going to give, because if you don't, trust me, folks will point out the inconsistency. But the way James Gladstone speaks, I don't have a problem with it at all. I don't see how anybody does. I think they're just projecting fear, and the fear is they've had guys that had very, very good speech things to say before, like Urban Meyer and Gus Bradley and Trent Baalke sounded, you know, fire and brimstone, and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. And it turns out, well, he probably didn't. And I think that's a little bit of fear that people are projecting. But with Gladstone, I don't have a problem with it. I was on Mike Meltzer's show on Mad Dog Radio Saturday night, and he played a clip of James Gladstone, and we had a little fun with it. And all I told him, I said, if they win, James Gladstone's voice is going to be all over NFL films, and it's going to be everywhere. And if Travis Hunter is good, every single time they play a Travis Hunter highlight, you may hear James Gladstone's voice narrating and saying the things that he has said in these press conferences. If they don't win, y'all ain't going to want to hear it no more. And if Travis isn't any good, which I doubt, y'all ain't going to hear it anymore. It's just what it is. But the thing about them that I'll tell you is, really, when you think about it, all they're doing when they're talking to you is just keeping it simple, and it's simple communication. And you're not going to be guessing at all. Just like when you saw their draft picks, you didn't guess at what they thought. There was no need for guessing, or there's no need to be thinking anymore about some of those things that we were all thinking about. And this is the thing that I kept telling people. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know how they feel about the current football team. Now that they've made these choices, it gives you some sort of an idea. Now, because they didn't address one area, it doesn't mean they absolutely love that area. And because they overly addressed maybe like the offensive line, it doesn't mean that they hated the offensive line, although it could also mean that they did. What I am saying is they have to be able to put a good team on the field next year, but you're not going to fix. And this is where we need to park here real quick. You're not going to get the team to the point where anybody ever says it's built, because it is perpetually not built, because they're always looking to replace players who aren't good, or they're always looking to find players who are better than the guys that they have now. That is the reality of it. Contracts preclude them from being able to just move on everything that they do. So to me, that plays a part in everything too. Like, for instance, if Gabe Davis's contract did not preclude them from getting rid of him, there's no way on earth he'd still be on this team, in my opinion. And I'm sorry to say that. Gabe is from, matter of fact, he's from a town probably 5 miles away from me right now. This is just the reality of the business. This ain't personal. I think somebody hit me up online saying, man, you all on Gabe. You're on his top. No, I'm not. They're on his top because he's making a bunch of money and they keep drafting people to replace him, including Travis Hunter and Diami Brown, right? And they mentioned Parker Washington. That's 4 receivers. Your 5th best receiver is your highest paid guy. Well, maybe not now with the exception of Hunter, but I'm talking about annually per year. So what that tells you is it's not personal, but it is a business. They're always looking to move and improve. So that's one of those things that you can assess that they saw and they said, we need more team speed. We need more team speed. And I'm going to run through these picks real quick. Of course, Travis Hunter was taken first. We know that. Caleb Ransoft, fast as hell. He's going to play safety. They're going to put him at safety, kind of like a Brian Branch type. Maybe can play in the slot a little bit, but he's sudden, right? Wyatt Miller, that's a guy that fell in this process, probably because of he's in between positions, but he's a big physical kid with a large body of work that James Gladstone talked about. And in my opinion, your future left guard, whether it's this year or at some point during the year or 2026, he is the left guard for this football team. He's going to line up at left guard for a long, long time. He's a big physical kid too. Bashu Tutin, fast running back. You notice what I keep saying, the word fast? When you add Travis Hunter and Bashu Tutin along with Diami Brown to that offense that already has Brian Thomas Jr., speed is just always going to be a requirement. They want guys who can get them up and down, man, and who can eat up that real estate and who can run after the catch and create problems. And the faster all of these guys are and the better football players they are, those little alleys and those lanes, they get created real easily, and Trevor's going to have places to throw the ball. Jack Kaiser represents that linebacker that I told y'all that they were probably going to go ahead and get. I thought it would be Danny Stutzman. Same round, wrong player. Jack Kaiser is probably going to be a dude that is given a real good shot to be the starter on this team in 2026. I think he'll play a little bit now because he has a large body of work coming from college. Jalen McLeod, when we get into the 6th round, you get Jalen McLeod and Rayon Lane. Rayon Lane played at Navy, was 2nd in the country he's another one of those safeties that's built like that, about 6 feet tall, but he's 2nd in the country in turnovers forced. Jalen McLeod obviously is a pass rusher, rushing specialist, a little bit undersized, maybe Yannick Ngakoue type, a pass rusher from Auburn that's going to have a chance to play special teams and be edge 4. Jonah Monheim, I actually mocked him when I ran out of people to get. I mocked him as the developmental center that I think they're going to give a shot here. Either if he can't beat out Luke Fortner, he'll be a practice squad guy probably because they have enough versatility on this team. They have guys that have played center. Patrick McCarry has played center. And then LaQuint Allen, a running back out of Syracuse, very versatile, really good 3rd down back. This is the dude I think will give Keelan Robinson problems if they're going to keep 4 running backs. I think they're going to keep 2 rookies. I think this dude is a really good player, and he's very good in pass pro. So, yeah, that's what I think the Jaguars have done. The Jaguars, they hit the running back position. I told you they use 2 running backs a lot. I thought that they would double dip, or I thought that they would at least get 1. I think on one podcast I mentioned they might even get 2 running backs. Maybe not the same names. I did actually mock Bashu Tutin to this team as well on my actual live mock draft that I did, the first one, the 1.0 here on Locked On Jaguars. I actually did mock him to the Jaguars because I think that they want guys who can one cut and go like Bucky Irvin, put their foot in the ground, man, and go. And they have added a lot of speed to this team at those defensive back spots and the activity of those DBs. They want guys that play with their feet on fire. Eric Murray is like that. Jordan Lewis is like that. They're all about the same size. They're all interchangeable, and they run around. I just think Detroit Lions, when I think of that, I think of all of those dudes they have in the secondary. You got to really look at the numbers because they all kind of look alike, right? But the common thing that they do is they run like the wind. They compete until the whistle is blown, and they play like their feet are on fire. So they have a type when you really, really think about it. Did they hit the mark on all of that stuff? Since it's fluid to build teams, teams are never built. You're always looking for more and more talent. But as of this point, yeah, I think they did hit some spots. We'll talk about where the competition is and all of the things that come along with them adding more players. And did they save room for guys to be onboarded? We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of NBA playoff games. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it easy and fast to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky-high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Here's why I use Game Time, because of the priority last-minute deals. I love saving money, and saving up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, comedy, concerts, and theater is the move. And the all-in pricing means there's no surprise fees to check out. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'll spell it, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, man, we're moving and rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars. It is Sunday evening. This is the Sunday evening / Monday show. I thought I'd put all of this stuff together for you and give you a nice show to start the day off with. By the time you hear it, it'll probably be close to Monday, right? Did they hit the mark? First of all, we got to understand what the mark was. The mark that they saw was probably something different than what we saw. When they assessed this team, they had to look at it for what it was and how do they get the best out of what they have on the roster until they can improve it. Improving it it's not always the same thing. Even though they have a draft every year, even though they have free agency every year, and guys get paid in free agency. In the draft, the picks are slotted. They're going to get these contracts, especially the dudes in the first 4 rounds, right? They're going to get their money. They're going to get these contracts. The guys that they get in next year's draft might be better because that draft is overall a better draft. So and then they're going to be slotted in at the same type of money, right? With a slight increase. It doesn't mean that they're going to get the same things every year. Needs don't always align with what is available and where you're picking, right? And Gladstone even mentioned that when he talked about the fact that they were going to go into the vet free agent market, the secondary market, and look for some things on the defensive line. And you see already within 24 hours of the draft ending, that's exactly what they did. So it's not like somebody said, did they miss one of their guys in the draft? No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that this is an option that they had open the entire time. There is a connection with Coach Anthony Campanile. And I think they knew they weren't going to fix everything all at once, right? But they did have to leave certain spots. They left spots open everywhere that they drafted. They didn't touch a running back, obviously, in free agency. They didn't even draft a tight end because they brought 2 of them in the offseason. They touched the offensive line, which was the biggest need on the team starting when the offseason first started. They added 1 guy because they added 4 in free agency. So they did a good job of balancing and finding out where they could add more guys more effectively and still hit their other needs in the draft, okay? Specifically, when you consider they traded their 2nd round pick this year in order to move up, and they hooked that up with the 1st round of next year in order to move up to get Travis Hunter at the very, very top of this draft. So, yeah, I think they hit the mark because with Travis, what they did was they increased the talent level and the juice of this team, right? He's a rare person in the form of you being able to touch and affect both critical positions at wide receiver and defensive back. While those things are not necessarily a weakness, you're getting a plus player that plays 2 positions. And I wouldn't necessarily say that those 2 positions were like weak. It could have been stronger, but they weren't weak. You just added Diamond Brown. You got Brian Thomas Jr., who's one of the 7 or 8 best players at his position in the league, but yet still you get this infusion of talent at wide receiver. You also, that's going to help Brian Thomas Jr. You also get an infusion of talent and activity. Remember, I just described Jordan Lewis and I described Eric Murray, and I did describe Jarian Jones, but he fits into this too. When I talked about guys and the 2 young men that they drafted, when I said fast, twitchy, play like their feet on fire, add Travis Hunter to a defensive backfield that has those guys too, and the guys like Darnell Savage that you're bringing back that kind of have some of those same characteristics. And we're not going to forget about Tyson Campbell. I know a lot of people are down on him because he got paid and then he was hurt, but Tyson Campbell's still a really good player, and I think this coaching staff can get the most out of him. So they added a plus player, a very, very talented player, in my opinion, the best player in the draft, and he's going to help them in areas that weren't necessarily weaknesses. Like I'm not telling you that they're strengths, but they weren't necessarily weaknesses. I think what you're going to see is obviously Travis is going to hit you with a double dose of playing time. I think Ransoft is going to play for this team and increase the competition at safety. This is where guys like Johnson have to watch out, right? The third-year kid out of Texas A&M. These dudes coming for your job, man. And Rayon Lane, all of these cats, right? We'll mainly focus on the early guys. I think depth, special teams, with the exception of LaQuint Allen, I think Allen has a chance to really, really, really help in the kicking game as well as a returner. I don't know if he's done a lot of it, but I will tell you this. He, in the NFL with the rules where guys can't run, you can't move until the ball actually touches the person who's catching it, I think it's a little bit different. So I think the running backs and guys like that can have a lot of success. And then as a third down back, catching all of those passes. And that pass protection, that stuff is extremely valuable to teams. And then the Jaguars use some two running back sets that we talked about. So both of these guys might have a chance to get on the field early to Bashu, Tutin, as well as LaQuint Allen. But I like what they did early. I think you're gonna see Jack Kaiser have a chance to earn some playing time. Tutin's gonna get some playing time. Wyatt Millie, in my opinion, is your future starter at left guard, whether that be this year or next year, who also has some versatility to go out and play tackle, as do a lot of this. You notice a lot of the guys that they added have that versatility to play multiple positions. Fred Johnson, Pat McCarry, the kid they got from Dallas. There were a lot of dudes, Anton Harrison, Walker Little. There were a lot of offensive linemen, man, that have moved around and that are extremely, extremely versatile. This is why I like that Hainsey selection a lot more than a lot of people do too, because now you have a dude that knows the offense. He's the best center on the team, in my opinion. And you get the chance to onboard everybody and get off to a little bit of a quicker start. So, yeah, I think the Jaguars overall throughout all of these processes did hit the mark. And one of the things that is very, very interesting here is I don't think there's a chance in hell Mason Graham was ever going to play for this team. You realize the Jaguars did not address 3 technique at all. In fact, I was talking to somebody. He's not in operations, but he knows football, and he knows it very well. He told me, I don't know why everybody was sitting there talking about a 3 technique when we got 2 of them in the building, and they like them. They're already here. He was talking about Eric Armstead and Mason Smith. He said, we got 3 technique. We don't need that. And yeah, this dude played football for a long, long time in the National Football League. He said, we got it right there in the middle. I don't know why everybody kept saying that kid was going to come. Yeah, he's a solid player. And yeah, if you can take him, but that ain't what I think the move was what they did. And if that didn't happen, it may have been the running back. They took 2 running backs. It might have been a running back. But I noticed that they didn't touch 3 technique. Because, look, they had a lot of other things that they wanted. Every position they needed to touch, that's exactly what they did. But they didn't bother that one. They like those dudes a lot more than we think. Let's get into that part of it. What were they thinking this whole time? Well, now you know exactly what they were thinking. We'll talk about that and more here in the third and final segment of Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Nissan Armada. The Nissan Armada pick of the week is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan and that all new 2025 Nissan Armada. This week, we're highlighting the top pick from our draft, the one selection that truly stood out, the one guy who showcased the strength and power to push the team, the Jaguars, that is, forward as we look ahead to next season. That is who you think. It's Travis Hunter, this week's clear-cut top pick of the draft. That's who it is. It's Travis Hunter. Impact is tremendous on and off the field. Just exemplifies every single thing that the new organizational leadership has discussed that they wanted this team to be about being bold. It's about doing things, thinking outside of the box, and just getting people in this organization that work hard, sun up to sundown, and that love football. And guess who's just like Travis Hunter? That's the Nissan Armada. When they say go forth and conquer, that's exactly what I think Travis Hunter can do here in Jacksonville. It's clear that our top pick of the draft is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any other outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Road Pathfinder, and go find your next big adventure. All right, moving along here, third and final segment of Locked On Jaguars. So, did you get your questions answered? Your questions that you had, did you get them answered? Did you get them answered? I got mine answered, and I'm going to tell you. I'm going to name 5 things right now before we talk about their new addition to the team. 5 things that the Jaguars actually did. The need and desire for speed on offense was evident. They just said that they look. I think they looked at the team and said they lack pop. We got to get some pop. And Diami Brown's signing represents that more than anything. Like, you could say this, getting Travis Hunter is just a no-brainer. Yeah, it's a no-brainer, but guess what? Diami Brown wasn't a no-brainer. Diami Brown was just, it's like, he's a good player. He's fast. He's ascending, and we need speed. We got speed with Brian Thomas Jr. I love the fact that they're not just saying, okay, we need speed, and then they go get one fast guy and say, okay, like he's a speed guy. No, they want everybody to be fast. And that's what I really, really like about them. The second thing is the O-line needed an infusion of talent, and that's exactly what they did. At some point, I'm going to find that podcast where I said the Jaguars needed 4 or 5 offensive linemen and 2 or 3 starters. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm so glad they did it. Running back beyond 2025 was needed, and they got that. They got 2 of them, in fact. And I think both guys have a chance to stick around for a very, very long time. And I think they're going to keep 4 running backs. I think they'll keep 4. The DB room, this is number 4. The DB room added active pests, is what I call them. Pests, P-E-S-T-S, because that's what they play like. All of these guys play like they're really, really, really trying to aggravate somebody. And that's what I really, really like about them. They're all fast. They're all active. And I do think that is going to help with the identity of this defense, especially with the guys they have on the front end. And 5, the last thing that they learned, in my opinion, is that they like their 3 techniques a lot more than a lot of other people. Eric Armstead and Mason Smith, y'all are on deck. Y'all have a chance to go out along with Tyler Lacey. They're going to give them all a shot to be the depth and to be the leadership there. The Jaguars did add somebody, Emmanuel Ogbah, to a deal that's worth about 5 years, a 10-year player with career 47.5 sacks. He's about 6'4", about 265, 270. He is automatically edge 3. Was in Miami. Of course, that means he was with Coach Anthony Campanile, who before last year was in Miami with Vic Fangio. And familiarity, once again, it's the familiarity aspect, it's the professionalism. They finally got edge 3. This is the one that they have. You know, all that talk about moving Trayvon inside and all of this stuff is that was nonsense, by the way. Ain't nobody moving Trayvon inside. Y'all remember all of those things that were out there before the draft? They're going to move him to defensive tackle. No, they're not. He's a defensive end. And now he has help. I think it's a very, very good sign. And the question was, did they miss on an edge in the draft? No, but I do think that they knew this was a possibility, and probably these things had been discussed before the draft, and they knew they had a chance, but they did leave it open just in case something crazy happened and Abdul Carter ended up there. You don't want to have $5 million committed to edge 3, and then you end up drafting Abdul Carter because he fell to you. And then the other part of it is, even if they knew that they were going to do this, they didn't want to telegraph the fact that they weren't going to sign an edge. Maybe this was an agreement they had. Hey, as soon as the draft's over, dog, we're going to sign you. But they don't want to do it before the draft because of the reason I mentioned, and because it also would telegraph that they're not going after an edge. And, there's no reason to give people a reason to understand exactly everything that you're doing if you're Jacksonville. So I would not be surprised if they had that deal worked out prior to the draft, and everyone involved at least knew that this was going to be what it was, and that's who they were going to draft. So Emmanuel Ogbah is now a Jacksonville Jaguar. He was a Cleveland Brown at one point, and then he was Miami Dolphin. He's been with 2 organizations, plays right in, all of that stuff. So good for him, man. Good for him. I'm glad for him. I'm glad for the Jaguars. And I'm glad for the fans. They finally got Edge 3. It's a name that everybody knows. And he's very, very experienced and smart. So anything else? I don't think they're going to, at this point, I don't think the Jalen Ramsey thing is going to happen. I'd be surprised, but I actually think the way that they drafted, they're going to go with the people that they have. And they're going to go with these young guys, and they're going to save some money. They may still look out there in the defensive line market. I don't know what's available. If anything, they'll go get a big, older stopgap dude or something to play nose tackle. But outside of that, man, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to give the Jaguars an A on the draft. And the reason why is mainly it was the A comes from what happened on Thursday night, mainly. And the A is maintained because I like the fact that they still touched the offensive line, that they added speed and suddenness at running back. They added pass protection. They double dipped at running back in this draft. I thought the running backs went off the board earlier than some people might have expected also. So keep that in mind. RJ Harvey went in the second round. So I thought that was a little bit maybe the reason why they went where they went and why they did it. But yeah, I like the Jaguars. I like the fact that they were very, very intentional. They know exactly what they want. They know the type of players they want. And now I'm starting to understand what intangibly rich is. Every single player that they like, they have a trait and a characteristic that they love the game of football. And you got to lock them out of the building. And I think when you do this over and over and over again and get guys like that, those work ethic guys, one of my pet peeves is it's never too late, but still in the NFL, when you see a guy getting year 3 and he changes his body and starts getting his diet right and working out. So I think the Jaguars draft guys that are like that before they get to the league. And I think this is where they're going to be going. Like I said, I'll give them an A, mainly for being intentional and having what they did in the draft match exactly what a reasonable person would think that they needed to do after free agency. So when you add free agency and the draft all together, when people say, well, they ain't got no superstars, man, they just got a bunch of dudes they got a superstar. They got the biggest superstar in the offseason, and that's Travis Hunter. They got the biggest star you were going to get in the draft or free agency combined. And they were able to do the other things and really, really, really affect the other part of the team, the support, the others. And I like it. I like the fact that they've gotten faster. And I like the fact that they came in and identified what they thought they needed. And really, truly, it kind of matched up. The names didn't match up, but it matched up with what we all thought the Jaguars needed to do. So that's something to look forward to. Something else that you can look forward to is Locked On NFL Scouting. We're glad you make Locked On Jaguars your first listen. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting show. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves. The news never stops. Hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen or get your podcasts. All right, man, the draft grade is out. I'm going to give it a solid A, mainly because of Travis Hunter and because of the way it blended in with free agency and how it matches exactly what these guys say. So if it doesn't go right, if it doesn't go the way you want it to go, there's going to be a clear path to know who to question. And I think James Gladstone will gladly get up in front of that microphone and answer. It'll be a couple of years before we figure out whether it works or not. But In any event, communication is better. I think things have improved for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would love your opinion on it. Y'all make sure you tap in each and every day. Take care. Hopefully you got some of your questions answered from the offseason. We'll break it down and discuss it as we continue to move forward towards minicamp and training camp and all of that. And you can get it right here on Locked On Jaguars. Thank you for spending 30 minutes with me. We'll see y'all later.